The kid wasn't human. Obvious from the 4 eyes, blue fur, and the fact she hissed at my coffee machine like it was a predator. Still, I figured the cocoa might calm her down. That's what humans do, offer hot drinks before asking why there's an alien child in their kitchen. 15 seconds. That's how long it took for every pair of eyes in the town square to stop what they were doing and stare upward. The afternoon sky wasn't blue anymore, it was metal. Above the tiny coastal town of Fairford, Massachusetts, a wedge of darkness blotted out the sun. It wasn't a storm cloud. Storms don't hum like a cathedral full of bass speakers. Storms don't ripple with silver lines and geometric patterns. And storms definitely don't cast shadows in the shape of warships the size of skyscrapers. Nathan Cole, 42, hardware store owner and chronic underachiever by his ex-wife's standards, looked up from his coffee. "Ha," he muttered. "Either the Navy's got a new parade float, or this is about to be one hell of a tourist season." People screamed, phones came out, someone fainted by the bakery. Nathan just took another sip. 20 years earlier. It had been the kind of New England summer day where the humidity turned every t-shirt into a wet rag. Nathan, then a 22-year-old with more wanderlust than job prospects, had been hiking through the woods when he found her. Small, green-skinned, wide-eyed, and very lost. She looked like a toddler in a bedsheet costume, except the bedsheet shimmered like oil on water. She was crying. Not in a human way. More like a flute trying to apologize to a violin. Nathan crouched. "Hey, kid. You lost." She didn't answer, just blinked twice and made a gesture like she was erasing the air. It took him 3 hours, a stolen kayak, and a remarkable lack of concern for trespassing laws to track down where she came from, a silver craft half hidden in the reeds by the old marsh. Inside were 2 adults who looked exactly like her but taller, regal, and very much in panic mode. When they saw Nathan guiding their daughter in, they froze. The father's hand was halfway to some kind of weapon before the mother stopped him. Then she spoke in a voice that felt like a tide pulling back from shore. "Human," she said in perfect English. "You found her." Nathan shrugged. "She wandered off. Could have been worse. She could have found Boston." The father stiffened, but the mother smiled, genuinely. She handed him a thin, metallic disc. "For the debt." Nathan, thinking it was some alien thank-you note, tossed it in his desk drawer when he got home. He forgot about it in a week. Back in the present. The shadow over Fairford deepened. The alien ships, dozens now, were settling into a formation that made the U.S. Air Force's entire annual parade look like kids with kites. Sleek hulls, silver and black, bristling with spines and ports. Every car alarm in town went off at once. Nathan finished his coffee, set the mug down, and muttered, "Called it. Tourist season." A sharp pop of displaced air cracked the quiet, and suddenly 3 figures stood in front of him. Tall, green-skinned, dressed in ceremonial armor that looked like it belonged in both a museum and a battle. The one in the center stepped forward. It was her. The lost child, grown, poised, eyes like polished emeralds. She bowed. "Nathan Cole of Earth. The fleet salutes you." Nathan blinked. "The fleet." She gestured upward. The ships shifted in unison, their hulls catching the sunlight in a way that made half the town gasp. 20 cycles ago, you returned the princess of the Thalran Dominion to her parents. Today, we honor our vow. A few locals filming with their phones swore loudly. Someone whispered, "Princess?" Nathan leaned closer. "You're telling me your folks weren't just eccentric cosplayers?" The princess gave a faint, amused smile. "No. And your act that day saved the succession of our dynasty. My parents swore an oath that if ever you called upon us, the Dominions would answer." Nathan scratched his jaw. "And you're here now because—" Her smile didn't waver. "Because you have called upon us." That stopped him cold. "Pretty sure I didn't." The disc. The princess raised her hand. One of the armored escorts produced the same metallic disc Nathan had tossed in a drawer 2 decades ago. Except now it was glowing faintly, etched with shifting patterns. "You activated the oath mark," she said. "Last night." Nathan frowned. "Lady, last night I was fixing a toaster oven and watching old Jeopardy! Reruns. Unless Alex Trebek was secretly your planetary ambassador, I didn't activate anything." The princess's expression grew sharper. "Then someone has invoked it in your name. That means you are now bound by the debt's fulfillment." The crowd was still filming, but Nathan barely noticed. "What kind of fulfillment are we talking about? Because my budget doesn't exactly cover galactic catering." She didn't blink. War. The change in the air. The light humor of the moment leaked out like air from a punctured tire. Above, the ship spread into an offensive formation that would make any military strategist's pulse spike. Even without knowing the weapon systems, Nathan could tell these weren't decorative. "Hold on," Nathan said, raising his hands. "I'm just a guy who runs a hardware store. I'm not this." The princess tilted her head. "I was once a child lost in a hostile land, relying on the kindness of a stranger. I learned then that humans are resourceful, unpredictable, and dangerous when cornered. My parents told me you were no ordinary human, that you saw without being told, that you acted without asking what was in it for you." "That," Nathan said, "was just me not wanting a kid to cry." Her eyes glinted. "And that is precisely why we trust you with command." Nathan stared. "Command? Of what?" A low, thrumming sound answered him, from the ships. The princess stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "Someone has declared war on your world. We intercepted the signal. If we respond, it will not be a skirmish. It will be extinction, for them or for you." Nathan looked up at the Armada again. The sunlight flashed along their hulls like the wink of 1,000 blades. He thought about the disc sitting in his desk for 20 years, forgotten. About the girl in the marsh, terrified. About the fact that somewhere out there, something thought it could threaten Earth without consequence. He sighed. "I'm going to need more coffee." The bar on Port Lanyard wasn't the kind of place that served drinks. It served rumors. Drinks were just a polite excuse. Jack Hopper sipped something vaguely citrus-flavored, leaning back in his chair as the low murmur of alien voices rolled over him. The air smelled faintly of engine coolant, fried protein slabs, and bad decisions. He'd been in worse rooms. A soft, deliberate clink landed on his table. A glass. Pale green liquid inside. "You're not going to pretend you don't remember me, are you?" Jack looked up. The woman standing there was alien in the elegant, lethal way predators were: silver skin with faint iridescent markings along her jawline, hair like spun obsidian, and eyes sharp enough to cut through pretense. "Should I?" Jack asked, voice warm, lazy, like he had all the time in the galaxy. He didn't. She sat opposite him without asking. 20 years ago, human station engineer. Doc 14. "You found a lost child." Jack kept his face still. Inside, something old and coiled shifted. "Ah. That kid who nearly bit my hand off? Cute little thing." Her mouth twitched. "That cute little thing was me." Jack blinked once, slowly, as if processing that over a chessboard move. "Huh. You've grown into the High Commander of the Cerathian Defense Armada." She said it like she was dropping a grenade on the table. Around them, conversation dimmed just enough for the background noise to turn watchful. Jack set down his glass. "And here I thought I was just good with kids." Her eyes narrowed. "You helped me escape slavers. You carried me 3 miles through industrial vent shafts, patched my injuries, and refused every reward my people offered. Why?" Jack's tone was mild, but the words had weight. "Because you were lost. And people should help the lost find their way." She studied him for a long moment, as though expecting a crack in the surface. When none appeared, she leaned back. The galaxy remembers debts. Human. Some pay with coin, others with fleets. Jack's brows rose. And which one are you paying with? A shadow crossed her face. An armada is here. In your system. Not to attack. To salute you. Jack almost laughed. Salute? People don't send 38 warships for a handshake. They do, she said softly, if they also come to warn you. 2 hours later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the civilian orbital hub, hands in his jacket pockets. Outside, black space shimmered with movement. 38 ships, hulls glittering with Cerathian markings, hung in perfect formation, like jeweled knives in the dark. The civilian crowd had gone from gawking to uneasy. You realize, Jack murmured to the commander beside him, that your fleet looks one sneeze away from full invasion mode? They're here because the Kargathi are coming, she said. Your planet is in their path. And humans have no defenses worth mentioning. Jack's lips quirked. That's what people keep telling us. She glanced at him. I saw your homeworld's defense network. It's primitive. That's the polite word? The impolite word is suicidal. Jack chuckled. We've been called worse. Usually by species that later found out they'd underestimated us. Her tone sharpened. This is not a game. The Kargathi don't conquer, they erase. Every record, every name. You'll be dust and forgotten within a week of their arrival. Jack didn't flinch. So you're here to save us? She hesitated. Yes. And no. We're here to repay a debt to you. My council wouldn't approve a full intervention, but I can position my fleet between your planet and their approach vector. For a time. How much time? Days. Maybe hours. Jack's gaze stayed on the warships beyond the glass. Plenty, if you know how to use them. Back in the hub's strategic conference room, a holographic star map flickered over the table. Alien officers, tall, short, scaled, feathered, clustered around, exchanging clipped murmurs in languages Jack only half recognized. Every glance at him carried a trace of why is the human here? The commander silenced the room with a gesture. This is Jack Harper. He saved my life. He's also, she paused, someone I trust. That earned an audible ripple of skepticism. Jack smiled faintly. Nice to meet the someone who doesn't think I should be here committee. A green-scaled officer bristled. We face a Kargathi fleet that has obliterated entire empires, and you bring in a civilian? Jack's tone was even pleasant. Funny thing, being underestimated is the most useful tool in the kit. The officer scoffed. You think humor will stop the Kargathi? No, Jack said. But strategy might. The commander dismissed half the room and turned to him once they were alone. You have an idea. Jack's eyes glinted. More than one. But first, tell me, does your fleet have sensor drones small enough to slip past enemy pickets? She frowned. Yes. Why? Because if we can't outgun them, we make them think we can. You said my planet has no defenses. That's mostly true. But we can build the illusion of a defense grid in 48 hours. That's impossible. Jack shrugged. So is surviving without trying. Hours later, the plan took shape like a puzzle snapping together. Civilian satellites were quietly reprogrammed. Freight haulers were redirected into precise orbital paths. Every ship with an engine got a new transponder signature, one that made it look like a weapons platform. Jack moved between crews with quiet authority, issuing instructions that sounded casual but left no room for debate. He spoke with a grin, but his eyes measured everything, calculating angles and risks. At one point, the commander stepped beside him. You were an engineer when I met you. Now you sound like a tactician. Some jobs, Jack said, don't come with a title. Just a need. By the end of the cycle, the defense grid looked terrifying on scanners. Power surges and falsified weapons pings painted a picture of a world bristling with doomsday-level artillery. The commander watched the display, awe flickering across her face. If I didn't know better, I'd believe it myself. That's the point, Jack said. Her gaze lingered on him. You're not just buying time. You're laying a trap. Jack's smile didn't reach his eyes. The Kargothi aren't going to find a helpless world. They're going to find a welcome mat. One with teeth. The problem with a fleet that blocks out the sun is that you can't tell if they came to cheer or to chew. Earth's oceans boiled with reflected light from the alien ships above. They hung in layers, sleek spears of silver, crescent-shaped warcraft, bristling fortresses with gun ports the size of apartment buildings. Each one displayed the same emblem, a spiral of gold and violet. Jonas leaned against the rail of the observation deck, sipping black coffee as if this were a neighborhood parade. The air was hot from the sudden atmospheric friction of so many arrivals, but he didn't sweat. They're definitely not here for the sandwiches, Colonel Vance muttered beside him, one hand hovering near her sidearm. Jonas smirked. Maybe they are. The tuna melts are pretty persuasive. The military staff around them was coiled tight, eyes flicking between the radar screens and Jonas. He'd been summoned only because the alien flagship specifically requested him by name. Not his rank, not his profession, just him. That alone made the generals twitch. The lead alien vessel drifted closer. It wasn't sleek, it was ceremonial, plated in gold and ivory. When its docking clamps finally met the orbital station's airlock, the sound was like the gates of some ancient temple sealing shut. The first to step out was a towering figure in black armor, helmet under one arm. His eyes glowed faintly. Cybernetic augmentation. Behind him, soldiers in crystalline armor moved with perfect precision, weapons holstered but ready. Jonas recognized the emblem on the man's chest plate. Not military rank. Royal insignia. The alien knelt. The sound of armored knees striking the metal deck made everyone flinch. Sir Jonas Harper, the alien said in accented English. His voice carried the weight of ceremony, the gravity of oaths older than human civilization. By order of the Spiral Throne, we honor the protector of the young. Gasps from the humans in the room. Jonas blinked slowly. You tracked me down for a thank you card? The alien's gaze was steady. For salvation, we bring allegiance. Behind him, hundreds of alien troops in the docking bay turned in perfect unison and brought their weapons to their chests, not in aggression, but in salute. Vance's voice was a hiss. What did you do 20 years ago? Lost kid. Gave her a sandwich. Pointed her home. The alien commander rose. You did more than you know. The ceremony might have ended there if another voice hadn't cut through. Colder, sharper. From the far side of the docking bay, a second contingent of alien craft had arrived. Their armor was darker, their weapons drawn. Their leader, a lean, silver-skinned alien with eyes like shards of glass, didn't bow. Protector? The silver-eyed one spat. He harbored a fugitive air. The penalty is death. Suddenly, the salute looked a lot like a distraction. Vance's hand found her pistol. Human soldiers fanned out. Jonas just took another sip of coffee. You two seem to have a disagreement, Jonas said mildly. Do you want to talk it out, or should we skip straight to the part where you make a terrible mistake? The silver-eyed alien's blade-like fingers flexed. You are soft creatures. Easily broken. Jonas's smile didn't reach his eyes. Soft? Sure. Until you corner us. The alien commander in gold armor stepped forward. He saved the Princess Kira of the Spiral Throne. Her survival changed the course of the War of Six Crowns. Without him, the Spiral Throne would have fallen. Our allegiance is sworn. The silver-eyed leader sneered. Your throne should have fallen. And now, it will. Before the humans could react, both alien groups drew weapons. One in defense of Jonas, the other to kill him. Energy blades hissed to life. Rifles charged. Vance barked, shields up, as the station's defense fields shimmered into existence. Jonas didn't move from his spot. You know, he said conversationally, Earth's never had a galactic war fought over a tuna melt before. I guess there's a first time for everything. Then he whispered into his comm, Package Delta. Far below, in the ocean, human subs began surfacing. Not military ones, at least, not officially. They were disguised as research vessels, fishing trawlers, even cargo ships. But each one concealed launch tubes angled at the sky. Jonas finally put his coffee down. I'll give you both one chance, he said, voice calm, almost bored. Back off, or you'll find out why our wars are short and our enemies don't get anniversaries. The silver-eyed alien hesitated. Not long, but enough for Jonas to catch it. He was calculating. Weighing risk. Good. Because Jonas had been calculating too, for 20 years. The gold-armored commander turned to the silver-eyed one. If you fire on him, you fire on us. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. Jonas's calm crackled. Delta ready. He smiled faintly. I'd hate to ruin the view with debris. So let's all take a deep breath. Nobody moved. Then, in the distance, the distinct click of human targeting systems locking onto every alien ship in orbit filled the comm channels. No one had seen them coming. No one had expected Earth to already have their firing solutions calculated. Jonas took his coffee again. Now, which one of you wants to explain to your people that you started a war and lost it before lunch? The enemy fleet was no longer advancing. Instead, it hovered in the void like a wall of steel and malice, its warships holding formation just beyond the range of the station's defense grid. Through the panoramic glass of the control deck, Captain Rail could see their hulls glinting faintly under the distant starlight. They're waiting, he murmured, almost to himself. They're scared, Ilara replied without looking up from her console. Her fingers danced over the interface, plotting energy flows through the station's massive weapon arrays. The soft hum of the reactors under her boots was steady, reassuring. No, Rail said. Scared fleets retreat. This one's still here. They're thinking. The word tasted like danger. On the lower tier of the control deck, the comms officer glanced back. Sir, we've intercepted their encrypted chatter. They're debating whether to commit their reserves or withdraw. Ilara leaned back slightly, her expression unreadable. They'll commit. And when they do, it's over for them. Rail studied her profile. Calm. Focused. No hint of uncertainty. It would have been comforting if he didn't know what she'd done 3 hours ago. The superweapon had been primed, the fail-safes bypassed, and the targeting algorithm rewritten to include unconventional priorities. Your plan, he said slowly, doesn't leave much room for survivors on their side. Good, she said. Less for them to recover from. The deck lights dimmed slightly, signaling a shift in power routing. The air felt charged, as if the entire station was holding its breath. A tone chimed. Captain, the comms officer said. They're hailing us. Priority channel. Rail gave a short nod. Put them through. The main display lit with the image of an alien warlord, tall, plated in segmented armor, eyes like molten copper. His voice was gravel wrapped in thunder. Terran Station, he said, you hold stolen technology. You will surrender it, power down your weapons, and await boarding. Failure to comply will result in annihilation. Ilara stepped into view beside Rail. That's cute, she said. You've been out there for hours and haven't even fired a warning shot. Which tells me you've read the sensor logs, and you know what happens if you come closer. The warlord's eyes narrowed. A bluff. She smiled faintly. You think so? Then bring your fleet in. Let's see how much of it is left after 8 seconds. For a long moment, the alien said nothing. Behind him, Rail caught a flicker of movement, other officers shifting, exchanging glances. Doubt was already there, and Ilara was feeding it like a slow-burning fuse. You are surrounded, the warlord growled. Numbers decide battles. Numbers, Ilara said, don't matter if the first number is 0. She cut the transmission without waiting for a reply. The sudden silence on the deck was almost startling. Rael let out a slow breath. "You're deliberately provoking them." "Of course," she said. "They need to attack first. That way, when we wipe them out, it's self-defense. No legal fallout from the council." He stared at her. "You think anyone's going to care about the legal fallout after?" The alarm klaxons blared, drowning him out. The tactical officer's voice was crisp over the noise. Multiple drive signatures, enemy fleet accelerating to attack speed. All wings committed. "Here they come," Ilara said softly. The view outside shifted as the alien ships began their charge. Columns of fire flared from their engines, driving them forward with terrifying speed. The formation held tight, a blade aimed straight at the station's heart. "Energy at full," the reactor chief reported. "Capacitors charged." Ilara's voice was steady. "On my mark." The enemy closed the gap. 10,000 kilometers, 8, 6. Rail's pulse kept pace with the countdown. 3,000 kilometers, the tactical officer called. "Fire." The station's weapon systems roared to life. The main beam lanced out first, a spear of white energy that carved through the vacuum and punched straight through the lead dreadnought. The ship detonated instantly, a chain reaction tearing down the formation's spine. Before the debris had even cleared, the secondary batteries opened up, rapid bursts of kinetic slugs and plasma fire tearing into the flanks. Ships buckled and vanished in silent blossoms of light. 8 seconds. That was all it took. When the last enemy vessel shattered under the barrage, the void went still again. Only drifting wreckage remained, silent, broken, and burning. Rail exhaled slowly, his shoulders tense. All enemy signatures gone. No survivors detected. Ilara nodded once, as if confirming an equation she'd already solved. The comms officer hesitated. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." "Of course we are," Rail muttered. "Put it on." The display shifted to the seal of the Council, then to the image of a stern-faced ambassador. "Terran Station," the ambassador said, "your actions have been noted. This level of destruction was unnecessary." Ilara's eyes sharpened. Unnecessary would have been letting them survive long enough to regroup. "We've closed the threat permanently." The ambassador's lips thinned. "There will be inquiries. Until then, you are to stand down." "Standing down," she said, "is how people end up dead." She cut the line before the ambassador could reply. Rail rubbed a hand over his face. "You're making enemies everywhere." "I already had them," Ilara said. "Now they know I'm not afraid to act." She turned toward the viewport, watching the drifting debris fields. Somewhere in that wreckage was the last trace of the warlord who had threatened them hours ago. "This isn't the end," Rail said quietly. "No," she agreed. "It's the beginning." She tapped her console, opening a secure channel to a location deep in uncharted space. "Package is delivered," she said into the comm, "test successful. Prepare Phase 2. The reply came in a voice like gravel wrapped in static. "Acknowledged." Rail's gaze locked on her. "Phase 2. You'll see," she said. "But for now, let's enjoy the quiet." It won't last. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant, indifferent to the fleets that rose and fell beneath them. The wreckage glinted in their light, mute testimony to the speed and finality of the strike. In the control deck silence, the station hummed on, alive and waiting.